today I'm going to be showing you how I upcycled a piece of wood and painted it using watercolor. So this is a very easy DIY and is perfect for a pet memorial keepsake as well, which is what I'm using it for, to add the tag of our little angel. The first step in the process is to sand down the wooden block. Now keep in mind that you don't want to use anything that's too strong, because any lines that you do accidentally make with it are going to be visible with the watercolor. Now, because I did want it to be in the rainbow colors, I divided up my cat in equal parts, so I would at least have a guideline of what paint to use where. As far as paints go, don't worry too much about the quality of them, just use whatever you have. In my case, I'm using the ones from Walmart, so make it work with what it is that you have. Crafting does not need to be expensive. It's supposed to be something enjoyable and that makes you happy. So as I started painting, I decided to go from the top to the bottom, and I'm adding the colors in the order of the rainbow. I did have to make a little side note with the colors in order, just for quick reference, because I have pretty bad memory and I wanted to make sure I got this right for Benny. So I just added enough paint to my brush so that it wasn't overly watery, because I wanted this first layer to be dark and then it'll be on top that it will be creating more of an abstract art sign. And you'll notice in sections where like the colors blend together, I would start with the bottom first and then work my way up towards where the colors would join. And I just found this to be a lot easier for the blending, because you don't want to have it as a stark line if you're doing something abstract. So it would just help me make sure that the colors didn't mix ahead of time. And yes, the paint I was using did keep clumping up on me. It was probably because this paint is at least 6 years old and it is low quality, but it did the job, and I didn't want to do anything too fancy with it, since it's my first time trying to paint watercolor on wood, and it's just an idea I had when I found this beautiful cat silhouette. So it's okay. I just didn't want to take the risk. If you really want those dark colors and deep shades, what I recommend, instead of watercolor, you use some acrylic and just water it down a little bit, because that's really going to give you a deeper shade of any color you use. But I like the rustic look. I like the a little messy, not so neat, not so perfect look, so I just kept on going with the watercolors, even though it is a bit of a struggle because the paint gets absorbed by the wood. So you'll notice as we keep on going through this project, it keeps getting lighter, and that's just because wood absorbs water. So and just what it's going to do, and I didn't do any prep work to the wood to treat it so that it wouldn't do that, which a lot of professional people that do paint on wood would actually do. But again, this is just a project to honor our little one, so just working with what I have and trying to make it look beautiful. If you need to, for the sections that it joins, if the line comes out too harsh, just add a little bit of water to your brush and then blend it in. I then decided to add some more water to the spots that I had already painted, because I was scared that it was going to start drying out too soon while I finished adding the rest of the colors. So I just got it where you can see that it's just like a thick layer of water, because that's where I'm going to create the abstract sense of it all, but I just didn't want to risk it not being blended. And some of the colors, they might start bleeding through and doing their own thing, so just keep that in mind, that if you don't like abstract, you don't want to add this layer of water. But I thought that it looked pretty cool, so I kept on going with it. And as I kept on adding more colors, I just kept adding more water to blend it in to the already existing puddle. Once I started adding the dark, you'll see that it's very streaky. So unlike the green where it was just light, the blue came out more streaky, and this is because I had too much water on my brush. So I had to get basically the whole flop of paint that I had put on my palette and add it on. So you can do the same. You can also wait until the first layer dries and then add it on top. But again, that might mess up some of the abstractness that you want to do with the water. For the bottom color, it is supposed to be violet. I had a really hard time finding a violet watercolor in any of the paints that I had. So I kept trying to mix the different like blues or reds, even tried oranges, and the best I could do was a dark purple. So that's what I had to go with. But if you are able to find a violet, go ahead and use it. Once everything was painted, then I just made sure that the entire wooden panel was wet. So I dropped some more water droplets inside of it, trying not to pre-mix it because I wanted it to be a natural blend. But of course, water will do what water does best, and it will spread to other areas. And what I opted to, instead of trying to control it, what I concentrated on was on adding some color to the areas where the water was fleeing from, so that way it wasn't like a blank spot, but every single section would still have color, even if it had shifted or moved a little bit. And then I added some water droplets from those colors I really wanted more of. So I wanted it to be more of a lighter artwork than dark. So I focused on adding more oranges, more of the greens, of the yellows, and things like that, so that it would pop through. Tilting the wooden block to help the water move around. So it's a very controlled but also experimental type of artwork, and abstract art is really not my forte. It's never been, but I just got inspired for this one, so that's what we went with. The main thing to consider as you're doing this type of artwork is really just how you tilt it. So you can't get too impatient unless you're feeling like doing that, but you know, if you want a more delicate look and more control of the way that the water flows, you really just have to be careful with how you move it. And when you're adding the color, make sure that you're blending in with the water. Otherwise, it's going to look off. So don't be afraid of then adding a little bit more water to help it blend and dab it in, because it will naturally let itself do it. I mean, these are watercolors, so it's very easy to make it look abstract. You just need to be patient. And the unexpected can happen, just like it did to me. I thought my table was flat. It is not flat, it is slightly angled. So the darker went into the lighter shades, which is what I didn't want. So I was able to still salvage it by getting some of it off with a cloth and then adding more water to help wipe more away, so that I could get the lightness back into it. And I think that was like really the key to, at the end, having something that I loved. If not, I would not have been satisfied with it. So don't be afraid of using your resources, your tools, to fix the mistakes, because they will happen, especially if painting on wood, painting with watercolors is not something that you would generally do. The good thing is that after you pick it up, you can just go ahead and add some more paint again and add some more water and help that color spread again. So everything is fixable. You'll have a little bit of history still in there because the wood did absorb some of it, but you can still salvage it. Because abstract can be so surprising and you don't know what you're going to do next. I don't like to put colors on a palette because I feel like it's a waste. Watercolors are good because watercolors will dry and then you just add water and they're good again. But because I did want it to continue to be wet, then I was using the actual watercolor tube to take out some of the paint and then adding the water on top of it to help it blend in. And as far as the bottom part went, because all of the color went to the top, then I had to add some more of the dark blue paint again and start spreading it around. Now, because I had such a challenge with the purple, I ended up using the purple more as an accent, so there was very little of that violet, quote unquote, that the rainbow is supposed to have. But I did try adding more accents of it and blending it in with water, of course. After I was happy with it again, then I decided to not walk away from it. I just sat in front of it and let it dry. It's watercolor, so it dries very quickly. And that actually allowed me to take away some of the paint as needed so that it could be exactly what I wanted. Of course, all of that can be avoided by just looking at your surface and ensuring that it is completely flat using one of those levelers. And just keep in mind that even though I'm only showing you little highlights of why I did certain actions during my painting, it did take about an hour and a half for me to complete this small wooden block. So cut yourself some slack if you feel like you're messing up or whatever it is, because it will turn out okay. I was very determined to make this work because I love the idea of putting our little angels tag. It kept me going. If you just want it because it's a colorful rainbow color, then that's okay too. You can make this effect to add words on top of it, add a message, whatever it is that you're using it for. This will just look fabulous, even in just a square wooden block. It doesn't have to be a fancy shape, but I do think that it's a great addition to make a memory and a keepsake for someone that you love and that was a big part of your life and they crossed the rainbow bridge. So the process can be really therapeutic, and it's just nice to create something for them, because even though we don't get to see them every day, enjoy their love, enjoy their snuggles, enjoy any of that, they are with us and they always deserve to be appreciated and to have us do our best to give them something that really honors them and all of the love that they gave us. So it's definitely hard, but they know that they hold a massive place in our hearts and they're always watching over us because they really are angels. And yeah, I'm sorry for your loss if you are watching this because you want to make a keepsake with your tag. Now for the less mushy stuff, once you're ready and the paint has mostly dried on the top, you can carefully grab it and start painting the sides. And what I would recommend is try to paint them in the same colors that are against the edges. So even if the majority of the top is yellow, if the corner is red, go ahead and paint it red, because that's going to give it a more professional and cohesive look. Because on the sides, you really want it to just blend in so that regardless of the angle you're looking at it, it still looks beautiful and it still has that abstract feel. On the sides, if you do want to have it be more watery, so it covers the space, but it's not something that you have to stress over, that's okay too. The important thing is just having it painted. And if you enjoyed the project, please be sure to subscribe, because my mom and I create all types of DIY videos on just anything creative we can think of. A lot of upcycling, a lot of painting, a lot of fabric. So we always got a project for someone. We both have very different skill sets, but we truly do love creating, and we want to inspire others to also create and enjoy everything that they have and see all the possibilities of that crafting can give you. As you're painting, if you have a weird shape, also paint the little insides of it, because it's going to make a difference. So don't gyp yourself on all the small details. For the back, this one's optional. I'm a perfectionist, so I like to paint everything. So I also painted the back, removing the name of the prior owners and where they probably got it from in 03. And I did decide to leave a little quote saying glory of God that wasn't hidden, because you know he's in heaven with God, so it just made sense to keep it. And afterwards, then I added a multi-purpose sealer to the entire cat. You really want to make sure that at this point it's completely dry. If there's any part that's wet, it will spread, so be patient on it and seal it up. I did 2 coats of the sealant across the front and also the sides. And same thing as with the other paint, I don't like putting this on a palette, so I just twist off the cap and paint directly from there, which is another reason why, at least for me, it's essential that the painting is 100% dry. Otherwise, now I added color to my sealers, now I can't reuse it. It's a risky lifestyle, but I'm a little too frugal sometimes for my own good. So just trying to make it work and try to make sure that all of my supplies last as much as possible. It really is just a lot of saving, even just the pennies. Every single dollar always counts. The easiest way, I think, to add the sealant is just to plop some of it and then spread it with your brush. Just remember, be very gentle with your brush as you're adding it on so that you don't remove the paint. This is watercolor, not intended for wood, not pre-protected or prepared for it or treated. So just be very, very gentle. Then for the tag itself, I wrapped some jewelry wire all around it, just 3 times. You only need to do it once, but I like things in prime numbers, so I did 3. And then I folded the wire along the side where I was hoping to hang it from, adding some pressure, turning it around, and then folding one wire over the other. So almost like a bow shape, but only half of it, to see the pressure and to see if the location that it was in would be okay for me, or if I wanted to hang a little bit lower. Then after flipping it around and saying, yes, I like this, I want to keep it here, I started twisting the wire, and then I put it under the other wire itself, so that 1, it wouldn't poke out, and then 2, it would stay secure. Then after some fighting around with the very, very small screw, I was able to add the attachment to hang it up on the wall. The easiest way I found to do this was by using a magnetic screwdriver, and as it's lingering on the tip, then you put the screw in the hole and then start turning it so that it stays put in place. And with that, now you're ready to hang it up and display it somewhere so that your little one is always home.